Welcome back to Siege and Destroy, Week 7, Episode 3. We're here to talk about buys, sells, holds, trades, and some news, and we might even shoot the shit. We don't know. Whatever goes off cuff happens. Uh, so, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm TJ Sumter 55. You can find me on X. And pretty much on Facebook or even TikTok for that matter. Where are you from?
You can find me on X at the Ciege Belly Up, and you can find me on Sleeper at the Ciege 24.
Okay, so this is kind of how we go. We go back and forth between our buys, sells, and our holds. And first of all, we start with our, as usual, we start with our buys. But before we get to that, do you want to say anything about the breaking news today about the Jets?
So, yes, being a Jets fan, you know how I felt about the Aaron Rodgers trade. I was not a fan of it. I thought that the Jets sold their future for an aging quarterback. I felt that they should have went all in and went for Lamar and paid an extra first-round pick and got Lamar. But they didn't do that. They went for Aaron Rodgers. This time out, I'm not that big of a fan of this trade either. I understand what Devontae can bring to the team, but I would have rather them trade a third-rounder for an offensive lineman, to be honest. They need more help on the offensive line so their run game can get together and Aaron can be protected. Right now, you're adding a weapon to a team that already had weapons. It's just Aaron couldn't get them the ball. You're taking targets away from Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall gets less touches, so does Braylon Allen. For me personally, I'm not a fan of it. I understand it. The GM is trying to keep his job. The owner wants something done. Rodgers wants his boy. His boy wants him. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree. I think it definitely hurts everybody involved, minus Aaron Rodgers, like for fantasy purposes anyway. Like I feel like, Garrett Wilson slides from being a 1 to a 2, and Adam slides from being a 2 to maybe a borderline 2 to a 3, and Breece Hall goes from a top 3 running back to maybe like a top 8 running back. I'm not a big fan of it for fantasy purposes at all. And honestly, like you said with the offensive line, I still think that's a major problem. Rodgers is still getting a lot of pressure and taking a lot of hits back there. I still think that's going to be a major issue. I'm just not sure exactly how it's going to work. The upcoming schedule is kind of favorable for the Jets, so that might be the bright side of everything. But honestly, like in that loaded AFC, like what's the best they're going to do, outside of, like if you make the playoffs, you're not going to probably even make it past a wild card with all these teams that are, have better rosters put together than the Jets have.
I mean, looking at the next 3 games, they got Pittsburgh, New England, and Houston. Pittsburgh and New England, they didn't really need Davante Adams to win, and they would need him in Houston, but they have to win the next 2 just to get to 500. So, fantasy purposes, it could open up Wilson a little bit more because he's not getting double covered. Yes, that's true, but it also takes away targets and major targets because Rodgers is going to target Devontae more than he's going to target Wilson because they haven't been on the same page. So now he has a second threat. Lazard was 1. Now Devontae is 2. So Wilson's targets go down, and these red zone threats definitely go down because Devontae is going to be the number 1 red zone threat coming out of that, or coming off the line of scrimmage. So I'm not a fan of it. I'm a bigger fan of the Cooper trade for the Bills because they basically just got Stephon Diggs back, just less of a prima donna.
Yeah, the Bills, I feel like that was like almost like an immediate response to the Jets, like, hey, like we're gonna go do this, like while you guys do that. We got a comment here. Logan says, did Cooper's value go up of any wide receiver today? Honestly, yes. I feel like Cooper's value went up more than Adams' value really went up because I think Adams kind of slid to being that wide receiver 2 to almost a wide receiver 3 range. I feel like Cooper's kind of went from being a 2 to or a 3 to a 2, almost like he was bottom seller when he was with the Browns because that Browns offense wasn't doing much of anything. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I think Devontae automatically becomes a 1 in New York because of his connection to Aaron Rodgers. So he's going to get more targets than Garrett, than Garrett Wilson altogether. Cooper honestly becomes the 1 in the Buffalo organization just for the fact that they didn't have an official 1. Cooper was a 1 when he was in Dallas. He was a very good 1 when he was in Dallas. When they lost him, they took a step back, as everybody can see this year. So I definitely see the value in what they did, and I see the value fantasy-wise as well.
Yeah, I honestly, like, if I was probably sitting here as an Adams owner right now, I'd be okay trading Adams away for Cooper.
Definitely.
Anyway, we'll go on. We'll move on to our buys and sells. And our first buy this week, who do you have for your first buy this week?
So this shouldn't surprise anybody from our conversation, but my first buy is going to be Josh Allen. I'm buying Josh Allen, and I know it's after today's trade, but this is the information we have. He's definitely going to be more expensive than he was before the trade with Amari Cooper on the team. But if you're in week 6, you have a 5-1 team, you have a 4-2 team going into week 7, and you need some value at the quarterback position because you've been basically using flyers, or you have somebody like Justin Fields who probably isn't even starting this week based on the news that we got. I would definitely take a flyer on Josh Allen and put together a package to try to go get him. With Cooper there is basically Diggs 2.0. He gets a new red zone threat. He gets a new deep threat. It opens up everything else for everybody else on the team. So all those wide receivers, all the running backs, Ray Davis, when Cook comes back out of the backfield, he has, and his red zone threats to run go up. Because now that you have Cooper, he's a threat. So they're going to be protecting for Cooper so much, there's not going to be a spy on him. And he can run for those 5, 10, 20 yards that he likes to do in the red zone. So the next 3 teams they face are Tennessee, Seattle, and Miami. All 3 opponents you can throw on. And he's had 2 30-point games through week 6 and 1 20-point game. I don't see those numbers going down now that Cooper is there. So I'm buying Josh Allen this week. What about you?
Yeah, I think I tend to definitely agree. Like, his value became even more secure than what it was already. For being, maybe a top 5 guy to definitely like a top 2 guy, I think. So like I don't know if I shouldn't say, but his rushing floor and everything all put together, and then adding Cooper to the situation when he was already good for our fantasy rosters is just it's kind of like Josh Allen of 2 years ago when he was kind of an unstoppable force for your fantasy roster. I feel like that's kind of where we're leading, not just being the QB1, but being like the overly powerful QB1 for your roster.
Yeah, I think especially in a Superflex league, he's definitely worth the trade when you have to have 2 quarterbacks and hopefully 1 on the bench. And as far as him being basically Superman at this point, all you're doing is you're getting rid of the kryptonite because now he has an ace wide receiver to throw to. And that's why for me, I'm definitely buying on Josh Allen. But who are you buying on?
So my first buy this week is going to be Demario Douglas of the New England Patriots. And the reason why I'm buying Demario Douglas is because he kind of showed with Drake May this past week, because he hasn't really showed much all year, kind of, because it's only been, I think he only had like 19 receptions for the whole year. But he, in this past game, he had 6 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. So he's kind of showed a good rapport with Drake May in the lineup, and I feel like maybe those two kind of have a connection. I feel like this connection is going to kind of continue. I know, like, usually you don't want a rookie quarterback pairing with your wide receiver, but he really seems to kind of have Drake May's eye at this time. And Drake May, he performed pretty well above expectations, I thought, for his first game as a starter. How do you feel about that?
I was impressed with Drake May. It's a one-game sample, so I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. But he did a great job. Demario Douglas, he impressed also. I didn't see that coming. I didn't know what kind of wide receiver he was going to be. I didn't know how he would perform. But now that he has a quarterback that can actually swing the ball, he looks like a pretty viable buy. So I'm definitely on board with you there. My question to you is, how much are you willing to send for him?
I don't think it's probably someone you really have to send a lot for. And I think in like most of your casual leagues, he's probably somebody that maybe is still even sitting on the waiver wire as of today. But he's definitely somebody that is worthy of being picked up and put on your bench at this time, and maybe a possible flex play week in and week out coming forward. What I would give for him, I'm not totally for sure what I would give, but maybe somebody that we're probably selling, probably someone that we're probably selling high on, or off a performance. I mean, like even like, you could talk about a handcuff that maybe you would give if you didn't need them or something, or even just a small package of just two random throwaway players or something in that range. In Dynasty, if you want to talk about like a Dynasty trade, I would send a third for him. I don't think it's going to hurt you to see what he has for a third round pick.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like he's in the De'Ami Brown range right now because he's pretty hit or miss. Like De'Ami Brown gets points, but you're not going to be able to lean on him. And I think him and Douglas are in the same space. Like you don't. He's more of a flyer on a bye week when your starters are out.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at in the fantasy season as we speak, is because like we do have all these bye weeks and ahead of us for the next 6 weeks or so. So I mean, like, it is kind of like I think he's a good person to kind of plug in if you had to, kind of thing. And it's kind of a wait and see game, and I'm kind of okay a lot of times taking those risks on a player that I believe in. And Demario Douglas is kind of one of those players that I believe in. It's just been the quarterback play has been so bad in New England that I haven't been able to really totally buy in as of yet. And I'd rather be early than be late on a player.
Yeah, you gotta go with the Bill Belichick model. You rather be early than late, and you would rather get rid of them before it's too late.
Yep, and that's what we're trying to do here when we're talking about our buys and sells. Is just we're we want to. You kind of really explained it really well with the Belichick thing. So who's your first player that you're selling this week?
So my first player that I'm selling isn't high on anybody's list, but I like him because of the team that he's on and because of his potential he had last year and the points he just put up this weekend, and that's Christian Watson. I like Watson, as I said, because he had potential last season. People were high on him all last season. He was getting drafted pretty high all last season. And he put up numbers. He has 2 touchdowns this season, and I can see his numbers going up and down. It's a very lateral move, so he'll go up one week, go down another week. I think because of the Love connection, you'll be able to get decent value, especially after this week. Because don't get me wrong, they still have Wicks and Reed, they still have Kraft, but again, this week he showed that if you throw him the ball, he can catch it. He just wasn't getting as many targets. So if him and Love can get that connection back together, his target share will go up. His numbers will stick around the 10 to 15 range. And for anybody that just needs a valid bye-week starter, then you could definitely get something for him. You could probably get Douglas for him.
Yeah, I think so too. He's also like is like literally probably the most frustrating player in all of fantasy, in my opinion. Like he's a guy that I buy in, you're out, and it just never fully comes to fruition. This year was no different for me as well. Like I just keep going in, see what I'm expecting him at some point to be, maybe a borderline top, a wide receiver one range for fantasy purposes. It's just never. It's like he pops off and he's just never consistent enough for me to feel comfortable starting him week in and week out. It's just so inconsistent, whether it's injury or just the team inconsistency. That it's just so frustrating to be a Watson owner. So like I definitely understand why you would want to sell him, and especially when you have a window here to sell him high. That's definitely like something that I would love to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at it right now because you only get maybe 5 weeks of windows to sell a Watson every year. So the window just opened. You know you have an opportunity. You know Love is on his game. He's as healthy as he's going to be for the season. Sell him now while you still can and get something for him that you can maybe, if it's a dynasty league, get a pick or a young player you like. If it's a redraft league, try to get a player you're more into. Like I said, if you're really into Douglas, try to get a Douglas. You might try to go get you might go try to get Brown. You might try to get Turpin from Dallas. Turpin is higher than Christian Watson at this point, but some people are fans of Green Bay and fans of Love, and they might feel more inclined to move him than they would with Turpin with Dak playing the way he's playing.
Yeah, totally agree. So I'm gonna move on. So my first sell this week is gonna be Zach Moss, and the reason why I'm selling Zach Moss is not only because of the fumble, it was also a really bad performance against the Giants, and a game that the Bengals. I don't know. The Bengals just still they don't look right. But one of the biggest things, and we talked about, I think on our very first episode about Chase Brown being a buy, and I think he was mostly a buy for both of us if I remember right. And one of his biggest things was pass protection. But with the way that Zach Moss is performing, I think at least through the first or the last couple of weeks, especially this past week, I feel like he has probably totally lost faith in the coaching staff, and he's probably on watch to kind of lose a lot more carries in the coming weeks. So like someone that there's probably still a lot of people that would be willing to buy him just based on him being on the Bengals roster and the presumed still starter on the team. So like I feel like you could still sell him and salvage something out of him, whether that be for a different backup or a package with him for an upgrade at a wide receiver position or another running back position. But I feel like there's some kind of package that you could probably send to get him off your team, where it almost looks too good to be true to the other owner, and you just kind of sweep in and make that deal and get rid of him. But that's probably my first sell of the week.
Yeah, I agree. I'm selling on him too. You would have to look for a sweetheart deal to try to get him off your team, though. Let's be honest. His stock has plummeted since the beginning of the season when everybody thought that he was going to be like the next thing. That's just not happening. So I am definitely selling Zach Moss with you. I think his trade value isn't that high, but a sucker is born every minute. So if you can get somebody to buy on him and sell him a dream, maybe somebody will buy him for a reasonable price.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And who is your next buy that you have this coming week?
So my next buy will be David Montgomery. He has had an impressive season, and as long as he stays healthy, he should continue to have one. Yes, he shares carries with Gibbs. Everybody knows he does. But his numbers have been great, even though he's sharing carries with Gibbs. He's more of a red zone threat. He has not had a single-digit game this season through 6 weeks. He's had 2 games over 20 points, and 3 over 15. His next opponents are Minnesota, Tennessee, and Green Bay. So in my eyes, especially if I have a chance to get him now before he goes up against those 3 teams, I'm buying him now.
Yeah, I know Minnesota has been pretty tough against the run, and I know that they've been pretty tough against the run consistently. But like honestly, I don't imagine that being much of a problem with the way that this Lions offense is firing on all cylinders at this point. Like the goal line carries, David Montgomery I think has had a touchdown in every game, even dating back to like last season. He's like on some kind of record watch kind of like thing, like Christian McCaffrey was on last year when he was like scoring in like 20 straight games. Like I think he's probably at like 8 or 9 games right now, dating back to last year of scoring consistent touchdowns week in and week out. It's kind of like even when they had Jamal Williams, it's kind of like a consistent thing with that RB2 getting those goal line carries and those goal line touchdowns. Like he's definitely on pace as somebody that's going to end up with 15 plus touchdowns on the year. And so like I definitely understand the buying, and especially like you're talking about Green Bay also after that coming up. If let's say they don't perform well in those 2 games, after those 2 games would definitely be the opportune time to buy. It would be right before that Green Bay game too, because Green Bay has been getting just killed on the ground. So like that's definitely an opportune time to buy as well.
So yeah, for me, it's just he has 8 straight games, regular season games now. If they get anywhere within the 5-yard line, you know they're handing it off to him. So he's guaranteed at least a touchdown opportunity a game. There's not many running backs in this league that is guaranteed a touchdown opportunity every single game, and that shares carries. So for me, that's an automatic buy. Last year when I was out of it in a couple of leagues, I actually sold him and got a pretty good price for him. So this year, now that I'm up in a lot of the leagues that I'm in, I'm definitely looking to buy if I can, depending on the price. Again, like my other pick, Josh Allen, he's not going to be cheap, but sometimes you have to risk it for the biscuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who's your buy? Okay. Your second buy for the week?
My second buy is going to be DK Metcalf for the Seattle Seahawks. The reason why he's on my buy is because a lot of his stuff, at least like this past week, was really kind of just come down to luck, really, for him, because he's getting the targets, he's demanding the air yards, he's getting the target share. The penalties is has been what's been killing the Seahawks, and I don't imagine that being a consistent thing. I don't really see penalties being a consistent thing for this team, like going forward. I feel like he's definitely someone that's definitely like a buy low candidate at this point. I think he only had 4 for 53 last game. Just very on DK Metcalf. I guess what you're used to. But like the whole thing, like with buying him, I feel like it's the right time. When someone probably looks at those stat boxes and that's all they kind of look at, or how many fantasy points he scored in the last few games, and they're just like, kind of in this panic mode. I feel like, how talented DK Metcalf is. You know how much he demands of himself and in this offense. Like, so I just feel like now would be the ultimate buy low time for him.
I completely agree. If you're gonna buy DK, this would be the time to buy him. If you buy him any later than this, I mean, they do have 3 hard games against Atlanta, Buffalo, and the Rams coming up. The Rams probably being the easiest of the 3. But I don't think you'll have another time during the season where he'll be as low as he is right now, especially after the last 2 games where he didn't even score 10 points. So for me, I'm definitely agreeing with you where I would buy DK right now, hedge my bets, and hope for the best.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you're buying the talent, not the recent results. Who's your second sell of the week?
So my second sell of the week is going to be another quarterback, and that's going to be somebody's boy, Dak Prescott. I'm selling Dak because yes, he had a 30-point game and two 20-point games, but coming out of the bye, he had San Francisco, Atlanta, and Philly. He put up less than 5 points this week, and I don't see it going that much better for him moving forward, especially against that San Francisco and Atlanta defenses. Those defenses are stopping quarterbacks left and right. They have a good pass rush, and the offense of both teams keeps the ball out of the offense of the Dallas Cowboys' hands in both games. He has looked average at best this season outside of one game, and they have no run game to speak of, like none. So they don't. It's not like they're loading the box to stop the run. They're basically protecting against the pass and asking their front four to stop the run, which is anybody can do. And he really only has one target, and CD. Yes, Turpin has come through. Yes, Tarbert has come through. But I mean, at the end of the day, CD is his only real deep threat. So I can't. I'm selling that because he still has upside. I'm selling him because Cowboys fans love him and they will pay anything for him. It's just like if you're in the IDP league, if you had Aiden Hutchinson before the injury, you can sell him for everything and get everything back. Yes, you'll be giving up a young star, but at the same time, you will be getting back so many pieces that you could use towards a run towards a playoff run. So I'm selling Dak right now before he goes through the gauntlet of 3 games, and I'm trying to get as much as I can for him.
You know what's crazy to me is that all the money that they paid him right before the season started, and him and CD Lamb, if you want to include that, but if Jerry Jones would have paid them a lot sooner, they could have signed Derrick Henry or even Saquon or a different running back beforehand. So it's kind of like just crazy now how like they're just like the fall off is really started, and I don't think it's going to be something that actually stops. I think it's going to be something that definitely is going to snowball from here. I know Dallas is definitely going to have their games where they're going to be able to control a game offensively because somebody's going to have a weak secondary, and just like we saw, when they played the Giants, they might even have chances against a team like Washington through the air. But this team is at 3-3, and honestly, I don't really see it improving beyond 3-3 when we're talking about the team play. And the offense just looks absolutely horrendous. There's no pushing on the offensive line. There's no run game. You don't have any other really true weapon besides CD Lamb that's like always going to be readily available. And if he's getting double covered every time, like where else are you going to put the ball? You know what I mean? And it's not like Dak really has the legs that he once had, 10 years ago when he was a rookie trying to, run out of the pocket and escape. And like, you're not going to see that from Dak because of how many injuries he's took. And like, you're going to put him out there and risk him for what? You know what I mean? Like you paid him all that money. You're not going to sit there and risk his body for all that money that you paid him either. So like, I definitely agree. Like, being a sell, like especially when we're talking about a super flex or anything like that, or really in Dynasty, if you could probably get a couple first for him, I think now would be the time to get out if you can. How do you feel about what I said about that? Or
no, I agree. In Dynasty, you could probably get a lot from him. You could probably get at least a first this year and a first next year, especially if somebody truly believes that Dak's going to be a problem next year. I don't think he's going to be a threat that much this year. I don't believe in that offense. Unless they trade for a wide receiver, they're done. And they would need to trade for a running back also. So unless they're trading for both of those things and giving up draft picks for it, which Jerry's not going to do, this season is a wash. Let's just be honest. So thinking about it like that, it's just I agree with you.
Yeah, I did hear a whisper that they could be in the market for a running back at the deadline, but honestly, like, what's the point at this point to really go after running backs? The way that this train is rolling, Dallas is going to be picking in the top 10 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. They will be picking in the top 10, and sadly, I don't want to say it, but probably my Jets are going to be picking in the top 10 too. So who's your second player that you're selling?
My second player that I'm selling is kind of coming off his one big game of the year, kind of where he actually got into the end zone, and that's going to be Mark Andrews. And I'm going to be selling Mark Andrews just based on the name value alone and the fact that he's still being started in just about every league that you're in. This Ravens team definitely doesn't try to pass the ball too much. It's all ran through the legs of Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and I feel like anything outside of that, I mean, Flowers did have his game, but that was also like against a plus matchup where they've been allowing wide receiver ones to just absolutely destroy them in Washington. So like I definitely understand Zay Flowers getting his. Obviously he didn't get in the end zone, but we did see Mark Andrews finally get in the end zone. I feel like now, just based on the name value alone, and he's still kind of holding some price, and when we talk about dynasty leagues or redrafts, so like I feel like now would be the ultimate time off this one performance to get rid of him and sell him off your team. How do you feel about that?
We had a surprise Mark Andrews sighting this weekend. Did you see it? He scored some points. He scored a pass. It was amazing. And you know what I thought as soon as that happened? Sell.
Yep. That's your sell high window right there.
Right there. As soon as he caught a pass, sell. You know why? Because they have 3 tight ends, not 2, 3. They have Andrews, Likely, and Kohler. They also have Zay Jones. So, in my eyes, this is an obvious sell. You have to sell him. Sell him now off of name value. Sell him off of this one game. Because eventually he's going to have 2 or 3 stinkers in a row and you're not going to be able to get him off your team.
Yeah. Skullmaster, he said Cooper's value is skyrocketing. Yeah, that was something we talked about at the top of the show too. Is how we really like that fit with Josh Allen and him immediately taking over that as a wide receiver 1 role in that offense. It's definitely like a plug and play thing where we feel like it's almost like Stephon Diggs from 2 to 3 years ago when he first came into the Buffalo Bills organization, and he's just absolutely on fire. I feel like that's definitely Cooper's ceiling there. I feel like we were both in agreement on that starting the show.
Yeah, just to parlay off of that leads to my hold for this week, just to be honest. 2 weeks ago on our first show, I said I'm selling Amari Cooper because he was on the Browns offense. They were doing nothing. They did nothing this week. They did nothing that week. They haven't really done anything all season. This week I'm holding him because that trade increased his value. If you haven't traded him in the last 2 weeks, hold on to him moving forward. He's going to learn that offense. He's going to learn how Josh Allen likes to move around in the pocket. He's going to learn how to run around in the red zone and get open, just like Ray Davis did this past week against the Jets. Once he gets on the same page, he's going to be a monster. I'm anticipating 10 touchdowns this season, a bunch of all-purpose yards or receiving yards. They might use him out of the backfield. You don't know what they're going to do. They might CD Lamb him or Deebo Samuel and have him running out of the backfield like he's a running back. I have no clue. But with Josh McDermott and with Josh Allen and with those tight ends, those weapons, when Cook comes back running it out of the backfield, with Josh Allen running out of the backfield, he's my hold for the week.
Yeah, and being on a hold and also probably being a buy as well, kind of like what you were saying and piggybacking off of that, like him probably. Even let's just say it takes him a couple weeks to get acclimated to the offense. By the time the fantasy playoffs run around, and let's just say that you're a team that's sitting good right now, and you're at 4-2 or 5-1, and by the time the fantasy football playoffs roll around, Amari Cooper would probably be a wide receiver 1 and be a league-winning player for you. So, like, definitely now would be a great time to buy Amari Cooper if you were able to get him, because I don't think his value is quite skyrocketed even with the trade. And I feel like now would be just the ultimate time to buy him. Like I said at the top of the show too, like I would trade Adams for Cooper right now if I could.
Yeah, I would too. And
And okay, go ahead.
who's your host for the week?
So my hold is going to be Tyrone Tracy Jr. for the New York Giants, and one of the things is the performance was good, the catching was good. He was really a prospect that I really like going out. I have him in like 4 out of 11 dynasty leagues that I have, or it could even be more than that actually. But definitely someone that I picked up at the end of drafts and late in the first or fourth round rookie drafts, but. I scooped them up pretty much everywhere in this coming week just to kind of get him on my roster because like I was really in love with a lot of his profile from his receiving point, and that's just the volume and opportunity that he received with Singletary. And without Malik Neighbors there, the offense really stifled. But he was one bright spot in that game against the Bengals, and I feel like once we have Malik Neighbors back, if Tyron Tracy is to get more opportunity going forward, I feel like he could be a pretty good, valuable asset for your team going forward as well. I honestly, like at this point, we don't really know what Singletary's injury situation is, if he's going to be out another week or not. But one thing is, I don't know honestly if Singletary is actually going to be able to withhold this job back from Tyron Tracy going forward. Even if he is, it's going to be more of a 50-50 split. So he probably definitely has some flex appeal and, like I said, handcuff appeal, but he's also somebody that I feel like could possibly take that RB1 role from Singletary by this time the season's over.
Yeah, I agree. I think Singletary was burnt out when he was in Buffalo. I didn't like the signing when it happened for the Giants, but they needed a running back, and they went with the best running back they had on the market. Looking at that Hard Knocks, I was just like, seriously, you're that high up on Singletary? I don't get it. Um, but Tracy is a different kind of animal if he can keep this up. To me, he's like Braylon Allen-esque, where you don't know what he's going to do, but he can turn into a truck, or he can receive out of the backfield, or he can run it for 20 yards. Um, I like that hold. I really like that hold, especially if you're thinking dynasty. Redraft, he's more of a, unless you're very, very, thin at running back, he's more of a bye week start, sit on the bench to see what happens. Or depending on the matchup, who the Giants have and who you have at running back against whatever defense. Because I'm taking him over ETN at this point. So I honestly like that hold.
Yeah, and Etienne's got the hamstring injury. At least that's what was reported after that game, or after that fumble, I should say. He's got a hamstring injury, so definitely, like I don't like anything about that situation in Jacksonville, other than like Brian Thomas Jr. or Evan Ingram. So even Brian Thomas Jr. had a down game, but he was someone that I was buying a couple weeks ago, and then he did have a big game. So he probably would have been someone that I would have just sold high off the big game on, but. We'll just kind of end it on that note. And anything else that you kind of want to say before I kind of wrap things up here?
So all I want to say is, as I was speaking to you and everybody else at Belly Up, I've been telling you guys about the Survivor League that I'm in, and I want everybody to be on the lookout. After this season ends, I'm going to have a weekly stream explaining everything, the ins and outs, the backstabbing, the behind the scenes stuff, the votes. It's a league based on Survivor, the TV show, that has tribal council voting, weekly advantages, disadvantages. Just be on the lookout for that because it's coming at the end of January.
Yeah, that sounds really fun and informative, and also like the viewers that we have. We would definitely like to get some viewers involved in a league like that too. I think that would be a fun idea.
Definitely, I can try to set that up for next season so that everybody can get a taste for themselves. Because I'm telling you right now, the amount of stress it'll drive you to drink, but it's so much fun that it's ridiculous. It's like playing Survivor, but the fantasy football version. If you can mix the TV show Survivor with fantasy football, you will come up with this. I've already spoken to the person that invited me to the league. They're going to come on, they're going to explain it, and every week I'm going to try to bring on a new person or explain what happened that week, how I got to that point, who got eliminated, why, the tribe votes. the secret conversations, everything will be explained, and I hope everybody can tune in and join in.
Yeah, it sounds really fun. Anyway, I want to thank Belly Up for giving us this platform and the tools needed to bring all this information to you guys. Before we leave, you just want to let everybody know where they can find you again?
Yeah, you can find me at the Ciege Belly Up on X and at the Ciege 24 on Sleeper.
Yeah, and you can find me on X as well under my name, TJ Sumter 55. Also, like on TikTok or Facebook or whatever platform you use. Other than that, that's all we have for this week. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night.